Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 1990 classic Jean-Claude Van Damme film, Lionheart. The film is directed by Sheldon Lettish, and it stars, of course, Jean-Claude Van Damme. We have Harrison Page, Deborah Reynard, Lisa Pilkin, Ashley Johnson, and Brian Thompson. Now, the film tells the story of Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, Leon, who is in the French Foreign Legion, and he receives word that his brother has been killed in like a gang fight, set on fire and killed. He knows he had a wife and a young daughter, so he has to make his way out of the French Foreign Legion by basically escaping and going absent without leave. Heading back off to the States to try and help his sister-in-law and her young daughter, who have been left with a load of bills. They're not going to be able to survive without help. So Leon decides to enter like an underground fighting ring in order to make some money and provide for his family. However, he is being used and corrupted by Cynthia and Brian Thompson's character, Russell, who are, ruthless fight promoters who are only interested in making money and exploiting fighters. And Jean-Claude Van Damme's Leon is next on their list. However, they do not plan for Jean-Claude Van Damme's heart and determination. Right, what are my thoughts on Lionheart? Well, this has always been probably, I would say, my favourite Jean-Claude Van Damme film. I did a top 10 list of Jean-Claude Van Damme films, my favourite ones, a couple of years ago, maybe a bit longer on the channel. And I've got a recollection of putting this at number one, which wouldn't surprise me because I really enjoyed this film when it came out. I thought it was probably the first film where I kind of raised an eyebrow at Van Damme. I thought he's acting, while obviously he's still quite early in his career here. And up to this point, his acting had been a little bit dodgy in most of his films. And I've explained why I think that's the case, because English is his second language. But I thought he was, at times in this film, quite tender. And he gave quite an emotional performance in this film. And it was the first time I thought you could really see signs of him developing as a performer. Now, in 1992, when this came out, in 1990 when this came out, I was 18 years old. I didn't really give a monkeys about emotion and things like that in films. I just wanted to see martial art films, action films, and get people getting their asses whooped. And this film gives you that. So it's one of those films that has kind of aged like a fine wine for me, because as I've got older, I've appreciated like the other aspects of the film, like the tenderness and the real heart, because the film has a real heart to it. You've got the relationship between Van Damme and his manager, if you like, Joshua, played by Harrison Page. This real bond that develops between them. And then you've got, obviously, this bond between Van Damme and his sister-in-law and her little daughter. Him wanting to really do right by them after his brother's death and all this kind of stuff. So you've got all that stuff going on. Now, normally in a film like this, that's kind of stuff you're not interested in watching. But it's handled in such a way that it doesn't slow the film down particularly, and it doesn't spoil the film. It's not like an annoying distraction. Because kind of weaved into this film are a number of quite short, when you actually time them, quite short but very, very entertaining and well choreographed fight scenes. And each one is done in a different place. So you've got like parking garages, you've got like this brilliant fight with like these cars in a circle with all the headlights on. And he's fighting this guy in the middle of that. I mean, it was really effective. And the WWE kind of recreated that. It was it John Cena and Eddie Guerrero? It was something like that in WWE in like the mid-noughties sort of thing. They kind of recreated that, this street fight feel. And it was ripped straight from this film. Absolutely it was. And then you've got other ones where he's fighting in like a half-emptied pool that just looked so cool in like a racquetball, I think, or in like a gym place. He's fighting this big guy. You know what I mean? You've got all these different varied places where these fights take place that are really quite creative. And it's not just Van Damme just kicking ass, you know, left, right, and centre. You know, these fights, most of them, you know what I mean, are like touch and go for a while, and he kind of gets the upper hand because he's got a lot of fight, determination, he's got a lot of courage and all this kind of stuff. And then we get the big build up to this big fight at the end. This huge guy that he's got to fight to kind of come out on top and get what he needs for his family. And they build it up really quite well. And the final fight is really uplifting. There's a great scene in it that kind of gives you goosebumps. It's one of them moments that gives you real goosebumps, you know, when he's really down and it looks like he's down and out. And then, you know, he learns that his friend has betrayed him, you know what I mean? And he's just a pawn, really. And, you know, everybody wants him to lose who he thought what he wanted to win. So you just think, oh, how is he coming back from this? And then he's kind of like, you see this moment where he just kind of fights back and he does this huge jump and kick. And it's like a real jump out your seat and cheer moment, you know what I mean? And it's not easy to do that in a film. And the reason why they did it is because they made you care about this character. And again, that's not easy to do in a film with arguably a fairly limited budget. I thought the writing was quite clever in this film. And like I say, there's at the very core of this film is a nice emotional story. And then in between, you know, periodically they give like a really barn-busting fight scene for you to get behind and really, you know, really enjoy the fights and the martial arts that are on display. I think this was a really smart film to make for Van Damme. I thought it kind of put his career on a little bit of a different path. I think people realised, there's a little bit more to this guy than maybe just, you know, jumping kicks and flip kicks and all the rest of it. There's more to be had here. There's more to be seen by this guy, and I personally have always really enjoyed it. Apparently they were going to do a sequel, but it never materialised, which I do think is a real shame. I would have certainly enjoyed seeing more of this character. And interestingly as well, I'm calling this film Lionheart. For years, this film in the UK was AWOL, Absent Without Leave. I had the VHS at the time with AWOL plastered all over it. I probably had a DVD with AWOL plastered all over it, but it's kind of now universally accepted as Lionheart. But in actual fact, did you know that it actually had 5 different titles depending on which territory it was being shown in? So we had Lionheart, we had AWOL, Absent Without Leave, we had Full Contact, Wrong Bet, and Leon. So it had 5 different titles depending on the territory it was in the world, which always seemed a little bit odd to me. I personally think AWOL is the best title, but, you know, I think most people, like I say, have accepted Lionheart as the title for this film. So I hope you enjoyed this Jean-Claude Van Damme review. I will, of course, be back with loads more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.